Alright, so welcome back to Driveway. As you might guess from the opening here, we've got a sewing machine out on the table. Now this is definitely something you don't see from most people working on their cars, but sometimes these come in really handy if you need to make some sort of one-off piece for something like a race car, similar to our Crossfire, and kind of can't manufacture from a bigger company because that would cost you umpteen bajillion dollars to get that done. So instead of that, I've always had one of these guys sitting around. I bought this thing back when I redid the interior of a boat. So this is a 1946 or so Singer. The upside with these ancient ones is one, they only do one stitch, and that's about it. And two, if you can fit it underneath the presser foot, it will jam a needle through it. So, essentially, like I mentioned in the previous video, I wanted to make some quilted panels to cover in where the transmission tunnel is, and I also wanted to make them removable. So that way, if I needed to work on something, or if I really needed that quarter pound to not be there anymore, then I can just pull them out and move along. So, I've done a couple different things here, and before I came up with exactly what I wanted to do. So we can go take a look at this and see what exactly I'm thinking here. Alright, so I knew I wanted to do some sort of diamond pattern, just because that's what tends to look good. But on this particular one, you can tell that if you look closely, the lines kind of weave around, and that's one, it's almost impossible to sew straight. Two, it's even more impossible when I'm driving. So, that makes it so everything's supposed to be at a 90-degree angle, and the eyeball can actually tell the difference between things that are 90 or not 90. So, that brings us to making the diamond pattern in a little more squished variety. This way, if you look at the lines, they still do kind of waver around, but if you kind of draw back a little bit, everything kind of blends in. So, obviously this is what I went with. Now let's actually go through what I put in this thing. So the top layer is a fake leather. It's kind of an interesting pattern, kind of reminiscent of what you'd see on upholstery and that type of stuff in a car. But what I also did was, inside of it, I have 2 layers of a cotton batting, and then I have this cotton duck canvas outside. What that does, by being all cotton, is it makes it kind of more of a fire mat, because cotton takes quite a bit of heat to randomly ignite, which means this would be perfect to sit on the transmission tunnel. So then, once we got that figured out, it was basically a matter of cutting out a whole bunch of patterns. That's taking it in and out of a car over and over and over, sizing it, resizing it, tracing it onto pieces of paper, tracing it onto the fabric, cutting that out, all that type of stuff. And that brings us to one of our final pieces. This is for the passenger side. You can see it looks halfway as decent. You've already put these pound together snaps through. They're kind of an interesting thing there. So now we can go through with the other side of the snap and just attach it to the transmission tunnel with rivets. And then we can just snap these on and off. Alright, before I can actually use my snap end with a rivet, I'm going to have to take the rivet collar and actually machine it down so it can actually get onto that snap insert. Because we need to get down in there. So I'm going to machine this up real quick. Oh yeah, sounds good. Then we'll be set. Alright, a little something like that. So now when we got that in there, we can just put our rivet guy in there and jam her in. Alright, so roughly that's what we're looking at. Still got to figure out something for the boot, but went and threw in the carpeted mats that I made earlier in the month, I guess, and threw them in there, threw the pieces back on where they snap in, and we're pretty much set. Now, alternatively, I could have put some rare earth magnets into the fabric pieces, and then you could just stick it right onto the steel. But unfortunately, I have stainless steel transmission tunnel, so magnets won't work there. So that's where I had to go with the snaps. But as a whole, I would say we're almost there. Now, what I'd like to do is come up with a panel to cover over the wires that's removable, and then I should be set. Alright, so that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for stopping by and watching. Hopefully, we'll see you again later.